Welcome to another special edition of the Cranbrook Bucks Insider. I'm Wiley Henderson, play-by-play voice of the Cranbrook Bucks. Joining me is head coach, general manager Ryan Donald of the Cranbrook Bucks, of course. Ryan, thank you for taking the time today.
Thanks for having me.
So, Ryan, it's getting close to the regular season time now, but a very different looking BCHL than what we exited in the spring. What's been the biggest change for you, from your point of view, with the league going independent?
Yeah, I think it's given us a lot of new avenues in terms of player recruitment. Obviously, being able to bring in European players to our league is pretty exciting, and gives us, like I said, a new player pool in order to start choosing from, whether that's younger players across Canada, younger players from the United States, and like I said, overseas. So it's going to be a new look, and I think being optimistic, it should increase the caliber of play and everything for our league.
So you mentioned obviously the bigger player pool to recruit from. How has that changed things for you, for your workload? Are you relying a little bit more on your assistants now for that?
A little bit, yeah, and obviously scouts and people that you know within the game, as you're looking for players coming from different countries, different places, different corners of our country, the United States, and overseas. So you're trying to sift through a little bit of it, find the right pieces that you're looking to put into your program, and just like every year, you're kind of doing that in the off season and tinkering and adding, and I think it's been overall a pretty good experience for us.
First time that we're going to see some international blood in the lineup this season, a couple of players from Sweden. That's something that's really exciting, I think, for the fan base and for the teammates, just to kind of mesh those cultures together a little bit too. Just tell us a little bit about these international players. Both
guys, excited to bring them over. I think there's the big question is the transition coming from playing in Europe, the bigger ice sheet, and coming to North America where the game is slightly different, but we actually had Liam Hansen here 2 years ago, right, who grew up in Sweden and spent a lot of time over there, and just chatting with him and having conversations with him even this past summer, just a little bit about players and how the game was played and the way it was kind of taught to him at a young age, and I think that's going to help in its own way, but obviously having Loki and Oscar over here this year will be fun, and a couple of guys that taking advantage of what our league is doing as 20-year-old players to come over here that want to pursue NCAA hockey and looking to use our program in the BCHL in order to do so.
And a few big holes to fill from last year, I should say. One of those being goaltending with the departure of Nathan Airy. You've brought in Danik LaRue, who's coming in with a lot of pedigree in the crease. Tell me a little bit about him and how he's going to mesh with Carter Captain.
Yeah, I think they'll both benefit from the circumstances that we're going to be having this year. We've been pretty fortunate, and Nate was here from day one. He was one of our original group, and to kind of work with a goaltender and see his progression for 3 years. Ultimately culminating in being the top goaltender in our league last year was great. It's a great individual achievement, and for us as an organization. Carter, obviously has been with our program for over a year now. Very familiar with him and his work ethic. Excited to see him take that next step in his career. Danik similarly, he's playing prep school last year at Berkshire. We've had a bit of a connection there. One of our previous players had come through that program, and heard a lot of positives about him. In terms of character, who he was as a person, his habits, his details, and then when you watch him play, you get a bit of a feel for the strengths that he has, where areas that he could maybe grow and continue to improve. But a guy that we think can pair well with Carter and give us two really good options in net.
And you mentioned too the individual awards. Nathan Airy, obviously goaltender, you coach of the year, and then the organizational award that Nathan won. So just a little bit about what that means for this organization. A lot of times in the pros, when you see these individual awards start coming in, that means team success tends to follow.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think it's a bit of both. I think they kind of work hand in hand. I think from day one, I've been pretty open about how this organization's been run and what our goals are. Speaking with ownership, every year, and hearing about how we want to improve, areas we want to grow, what we want to provide for the players that come here to Cranbrook, and fortunate to get a few of those awards and those accolades are great. At the end of the day, we want to be playing hockey a little bit later into the spring than we have in the past. So I think we would all three of us would swap those awards for a team championship for sure.
We will get to that in a bit, but first we have to ask you to brag a little bit. I did mention Coach of the Year award. I know we talked a bit about that, but now that it's been a few months to reverberate, just what that means for you personally, kind of a recognition of your body of work here so far with the Bucks.
Like I said, everybody that's asked me about it, I've kind of beaten the same drum. It's, I think it was a John Cooper. I stand back there and chew gum kind of line, and we were very fortunate to work with really great young men, work for a high-class organization, feel like we're equipped in order to have success. So sure, there's some things that go into it from the coaching side. Having really good people around you, assistant coaches, support staff is huge, and the buy-in that you get from your players every day. They show up here with the right attitude. They're listening. They're working hard. Those are things that we've really tried to instill over 3 years here, and like I said, I'm just one piece of it. We had a great decor. We had an excellent goaltender. We had a really good forward group. Without those players, being coach of the year never really happens. So more of a testament to the people that I've been fortunate to be surrounded by every single day.
And getting back to the team a little bit, some great strides in the regular season last year, that second place overall finish. Obviously the playoffs falling a little bit short. We won't have the Wenatchee Wild problem in the spring this year, thankfully. But just your take about the steps this organization made last year through the regular season. Obviously seemed like we were coming out of the pandemic finally, and it was more of a representation of what a normal season would look like for the Cranbrook Bucks.
I think so overall, from the 30,000-foot view, yeah. And I think the biggest thing that we've benefited from in that time was a group of really mature hockey players that had been here for, since that first year and kind of grown through some of those pains. And it's the Reese Benthams, the Nathan Aries, as you mentioned, Cam Kungles, Jared Smith, Noah Quinn's, guys that had been here from that first season on, and you're getting pretty mature hockey players, guys that understand how we want to play, what our expectations are every day when they show up at the rink. So, that was great. Obviously, our regular season record was great. We were satisfied with that, and hopefully that set the new mark for where we want to be in the future. But the biggest thing that's kind of hung with me and certainly kept me up for a while there in the spring was the playoffs, because at the end of the day we didn't get the job done. And what more did we as coaches leave on the table? That's kind of what you start sifting through as time progresses into the spring, and figuring out areas that maybe we got to get better at. It's team play, it's individual skills, it's coaching, it's really everything. So hopefully it's a little blessing in disguise, and we're able to use that as fuel for this next season.
And not to make excuses, but it did seem like a little bit of a double whammy in the playoffs with injuries piling up toward the end. Some key pieces to the defense unit especially, and then Wenatchee just getting a random goalie on a heater, and then Parker Murray setting some playoff scoring records, I think, for a playoff series. So a little bit of a hill to overcome, I would say, in that first round series. It wasn't indicative of what I feel that we saw throughout the season.
I would agree. I think, you give credit to Wenatchee. They were a team that I think, was by no means, a seventh seed in our division. But
True.
At the same time, they were terrific. They played us really, really well. They battled injuries, as everybody does at that time of the year too. So, as we look back on it, part of that is, how do we insulate ourselves against that a little bit differently? Whether that's, guys that are getting sick, guys that are ending up with injuries. You want to be building that team over the course of your 6 months to have guys that can step into those roles and be comfortable doing so. I think we certainly did admirably, and guys definitely did make those steps. But at the same time, I think there's more that we can do throughout the regular season to prepare for that.
You've mentioned the turnover that's coming up this year. We've talked a little bit about goaltending, but the defense is also going to have a really new look. Some key pieces from the leadership group, obviously Reese Bentham, the only captain that this team has really known, Cam Kungle departing for post-secondary hockey. I guess, what do you feel the leadership group will look like next season, with some key pieces moving on, but of course still some veteran presence in the lineup?
Yeah, I think, from a leadership perspective, two kind of, big pieces there between Reese and Cam, even Bauer Morrissey that made a big jump into his second year as a player with us. So there's definitely, a void there, but at the same time, it can be really productive too. I think there's players there that maybe have been more in the wings that are now able to kind of step forward and show what they can be, not just on the ice, but also in your locker room, around your group, and take steps as leaders. And it's just a different voice. It's a different message sometimes, or different way of conveying things. So we're certainly excited to see a few more players step into those spots with whether it's Cam, it's Reese, Noah and Kellen both wore letters for us as well. So those guys are moving on to the next stages in their career, which is great. Now to give that next wave of players the opportunity to step into those spots.
Kind of going to be the swan song too for some of the original recruits this year. Just some of the returning faces that fans might be familiar with and what you're expecting out of them this season.
Yeah, I mean the longest tenured guy I think is going to be Jared Smith by a mile.
Yep.
He'll be back
Professor.
here. Yeah, for his fourth year, which is awesome. He's been a staple from us. Came with us that first year as a 16-year-old. Jaden Fodchuk has been around us since pretty well that same time. The pod season, he ended up getting a couple of games and has been with us over the course of the last couple of years. So those are probably the two longer tenured guys for sure. And then guys that are back for into their second years and guys that are continuing to grow and develop within our program too.
So we're into season 4 already for the Cranbrook Bucks, starting up pretty soon. You've been behind the bench that whole time. We've talked a lot about establishing an identity for this new franchise. Where do you think we are at in terms of establishing that identity 4 years in?
I think we've done a pretty good job. I think in terms of building an identity and a culture and the way we want to play, I've talked a lot about it. Those first 3 years really gave us the opportunity to do that. The players that we had, the continuity that we had. This year will be a unique one, as a coach, as an organization, where we're going to be faced with a little bit more turnover, some new faces that are coming into our dressing room that are going to, have to learn to, get used to the way we want to coach, what their expectations are when they show up here at the rink every day, and that's why it's very important, that, like I said, Jared, Jaden, guys that have been around here for a few years now, guys that are coming back for their second years, to kind of be able to carry that message forward a little bit as well.
And your body of work was recognized last year with a 6-year contract extension, which obviously gives you a chance to leave even more of a footprint on this franchise in the years to come. I guess just having that security and knowing that the confidence is there in you from ownership, how does that affect your job? Does that kind of take a bit of a weight off your shoulders and let you just focus on the hockey?
I wouldn't say so necessarily. I think when you're in this industry, you're always hungry. You're always wanting to improve and continue to get better and better. Every year. So I think it's more of a testament, like I've said, kind of to the organization and what they've shown. Us as a family, really. And I've said from a lot of different perspectives. Having alignment and understanding when you're working with people that are have the same vision for you and the same vision for what you're trying to accomplish is really important, and that's something that I recognize. We certainly have here with Nathan, Brianne, and our ownership group. It's something that I certainly don't take lightly. So happy to work for really good people, and ultimately we have the same goal of winning a championship, but at the same time, doing that with integrity and high character and bringing along the right people and using our organization to continue their own careers wherever that takes them.
We'll get to team goals shortly, but I wanted to see what your personal goals would be for this upcoming season. Any areas of improvement that you're looking at?
I think we're always, like I said, you're always trying to improve in different things. Something that I've kind of spent a little bit more time this year on is just kind of communication and ways we can maybe improve in practice and making things a little bit clearer at times or teaching just a little bit differently so that hopefully we can see a little bit more growth, whether it's more rapid growth or being able to go deeper onto different areas when we're on the ice. But yeah, in terms of personal goals, I would say it's the same as it is on the kind of the team side. Is ultimately you want to be playing a lot later than everybody else. I think looking back in the rearview mirror on last year, regular season success is terrific, but at the same time, it doesn't always necessarily translate into playoff success, and that's ultimately what our goal is here.
And touching on that goal a little bit, but reading into a little bit more, I guess your goal for developing some of these young players that are coming in, what you're hoping to see out of them, what kind of a style of play that you're looking to see from the Bucks this season?
Yeah, I think people that have watched us play, it's somewhat familiar. We want to be a team that's going to play fast. We want to be a team that can take away time and space from our opponent and play in a way that's fun for not only people that get to watch, but even our players, and find the right balance between systems of play and structure, but also giving them the opportunity to create and read and learn. And I do think that's a skill that these guys, ultimately at this stage in their career need to be learning and incorporating so that they can move that on with them when they move on in their careers. So, and that's kind of been our model from day one, is trying to be a team that plays with structure, a team that's playing sound fundamental hockey, but then also is able to push the pace and make other teams uncomfortable.
Looking back on the last 3 seasons, a little bit of a body of work now to kind of consider. What's your highlight been during your time with the Bucks so far?
That's a great question. That's a tough one. I mean, highlights for us, for me, I think that there's a lot of, nice victories. There's a lot of good wins. But at the end of the day, I think when you look inside the walls of our organization, you get to see kids that, came here with nothing and have an opportunity to continue on. And I think of kids, we talk about a lot of guys moving on. It's the Noah Quinns, but the Reese Benthams, but also, the Cam Kungles, guys that came here and wanted to play in the BCHL and came to Cranbrook at that time, and to see them find a college home when they spend a lot of their time and energy at their craft that a lot of people don't see, and to see them get rewarded with an opportunity to then go play another 4 years and get an education, and for me that's always exciting. So that's something that I always kind of, like I said, kind of take a little bit of pride in, and happy to see those guys moving on.
And now you've been in Cranbrook for quite a while. Have you settled in? And how's the family doing? How's everybody liking their time in the Key City?
No, it's been good. Settled in is a good way to put it. We've enjoyed it. With our kids obviously being younger and in school, and keeps you busy throughout the winter, no question. The summertime is a chance to get out and explore a little bit more, and yes, we've really enjoyed it.
And again, it was a busy off season, definitely. But did you get any chances to kind of take a break? Kick back a little bit?
I wish. Not yet. Okay. We'll get there. But no, it's definitely a slower pace as you roll through the summer, and but there's always kind of conversations and recruiting and team building. That's kind of when most of it takes place. So takes up a decent amount of your time, but you also try to give yourself an opportunity to get away and recharge a little bit too.
Going back to my playing days, which dating myself is quite a while ago now, but this time of year was always very exciting. Just the anticipation of getting back out, new teammates, just new everything, new season. What's that like from the coaching side?
It's similar. There's always that anticipation, the excitement that kind of brews as and even today, the last couple of days, you're starting to talk with our group and figure out travel plans and when guys are going to start to arrive, and obviously billet homes and all of the stuff that comes along with it. So I think as a player, you kind of get that excitement, you get that itch to pack back up, get back to your team, get back around teammates and friends, and embark on another season.
And yeah, that season is coming up very shortly. So Ryan, I shouldn't take too much of your time anymore, but want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me today and to join this special edition of the Cranbrook Bucks Insider. So Wiley Henderson signing off with Ryan Donald. Ryan, thank you again.
Thank you.